Welcome to the Histories of Northamptonshire podcast series, and this episode number 73. Recorded on location, each episode tells the story of one of the many and varied objects which are the focus of the exhibition A History of Northamptonshire in 100 Objects. The exhibition runs at the Northampton Museum and Art Gallery between the 20th of September 2025 and February 2026. Selected by local individuals, heritage groups and the museum's own curators, each object tells a different story from the county's past. And so, to our guests for this episode. Who are the two of you, and who are you representing in this particular exhibition?
My name's Athene Frisbee. I am a local Northampton person, lived in Northampton most of my life, but I'm also a lace maker and have been since the early 80s.
My name is Barbara Potter. I am also a lace maker and a member of Nen Lace Makers, the organisation who have recommended this particular item as worthy of being included in this exhibition.
Athene, describe, if you would, the object for me.
This is a piece of lace, Buckinghamshire Point lace. There is no lace named Northamptonshire lace, and I think this is a great shame because I think it's one of the reasons why Northamptonshire is disregarded to an extent in lace making. Buckinghamshire lace was made throughout the 19th century in Northamptonshire, in the villages across the county.
So Buckinghamshire lace is a form of lace?
Yes, it's a style of lace. It's a style of lace that's made throughout the continent but with certain refinements. And nowadays Buckinghamshire lace is regarded by some as the queen of laces. But it's a very, very beautiful lace with a fine net background and scrolling floral patterns with a heavier thread called a gimp around it. And this particular pattern, the Paisley Pear, is a wonderful example of that. And I believe the museum are extremely lucky to have it in their collection.
Tell me, for those people who can't see it, about the size of the object and how much work would have got into the making of it.
One of the remarkable things about this piece of lace is its size. It's 10 inches, 25 centimetres wide, which means that it's a huge amount of work for the lace maker. It would have probably been made or designed to be gathered as a flounce around a Victorian ball gown. So in order to do that, initially, there would have had to be yards and yards. But the museum are lucky enough to have 3 yards, which is just under 3 metres, length of this, which is quite remarkable to have that. And it's also quite remarkable for it to have been made at the time it was, which was about 1900.
Do we know who made this particular object?
We do. Her name was Betsy Gibbons. There are various forms of her name, and I believe her family actually called her Elizabeth, but she's recorded as Betsy Gibbons, who lived in Puddingbank Lane in Paulsbury. What a wonderful address that is.
Do we have any idea as to how much work was involved in a piece of this size? Because my grandmother used to make lace, and I'm told that it is fiendishly difficult and you've got to have extremely good eyesight and nimble fingers. And the work is huge.
It is. I can make an inch of lace only an inch or two wide, maybe in several hours. So something 10 inches wide and 3 yards or potentially 30 yards long would have been a full-time job right into the night by candlelight, and lace makers destroyed their eyes by doing this, frankly. There's a lot of poor lace around. This is why this is so exceptional, because it is exquisitely made. It's a beautiful design, first of all. The Paisley Pear is a lovely, lovely design, which was originated in Persia and then went to India and somehow got back to Paisley in Scotland, where it was incorporated into beautiful woven shawls. And so we have the same design repeatedly on this length of lace, which is really, really lovely. But it is the connection with the local lace making industry and the fact that we know exactly who made it, and we actually have a picture of her, which is why it is included rather than just an excellent piece of lace.
Athene, thank you for that. Barbara, what is the significance of lace on the international market, and where did Britain, or does Britain, sit when it comes to lace making?
The lace makers originally came from the Huguenots escaping persecution in France. They came to this country and settled wherever they found a patron who would support them until they could get established and support themselves. They brought their lace making skills with them, and they established the English lace making areas one of which was the Midlands area, comprising of Northamptonshire, Buckinghamshire and Bedfordshire.
So why did Buckinghamshire get a name and Northamptonshire didn't?
Originally there was a Northamptonshire lace, but it has been lost, unfortunately. Northamptonshire lace makers either tended to make Buckinghamshire lace or torchon lace, which is another style that is simpler than the Buckinghamshire lace.
So from a historian's perspective, I'm fascinated by this. There must have been Northamptonshire lace makers who would be incensed that the name was lost. How do you lose a name? How do you make a name?
The patterns have been lost and you can't recreate them, unfortunately. Fortunately, the other patterns have been maintained.
Lace making, you say, came in from abroad.
Yes.
To the United Kingdom, into Britain. Where does Britain stand on the scale of its peers?
The best lace was made in the Low Countries, in Holland and Belgium, and also in Italy, as all the finest art at the Renaissance time came from those areas. And it was imported, and a lot of people in sort of Elizabethan times lost their fortunes spending money on lace because it was the thing to have.
Was it a tradable commodity in its own right?
Oh, absolutely. Then? And it was smuggled, and it was worth more than its weight in gold. And there were sumptuary laws introduced to stop people buying continental lace and to try and support the English lace makers.
So to have it would have been a statement about the person who had it and wore it, and presumably pointed to it to say, "Look what I've got."
Yes, that's right. The lace makers themselves did not wear the lace. They were the families of agricultural workers whose wages were extremely low at the time, and in order to make ends meet, the wife and the children would make lace. Even if it was only for small amounts of money, they were paid mere pence per yard for the lace they made.
So in the case of the Paisley Pear, would this have been a piece made to order? Would it have been a commission, or would it have been something that somebody made and then sold to somebody who saw it and liked it?
No, a piece of this quality and size and length of time to make would certainly have been made to order. And it was made very late when the lace industry was declining, about 1900. So a local wealthy lady, aristocrat, may well have ordered this. And in fact, it came through the collection of Mrs. Ella Harrison, a vicar's wife, who tried to encourage the revival of the lace industry. And although I say it's very long, it's very short if you wanted to put it onto a ball gown. And so she may have requested this as a beautiful sample and kept it in her collection.
Let me ask a question of both of you. You are both lace makers. What is your emotion? What is your reaction to this piece when you see it, knowing as you do how it is that it has come about, the work that has got into it? What is your emotion, Barbara?
Amazement that such fine work has survived for so long. The lace maker would have spent countless hours making the piece of lace, and she would have done it non-stop virtually. She would have her housework to do, obviously, but that would come secondary to making the lace.
Athene?
I feel great pride that we have it in Northamptonshire. I think we're very lucky. We have some lovely lace in the collection, but not really as much as we should have. And it's so lovely if it's on show and people can see it.
You are keeping this alive. How important do you feel it is to keep the making of lace alive in a modern sense?
Originally, it was an industry, but it's far too labour intensive now to be an industry. Handmade lace making is not an industry, but it is a hobby, and quite a thriving hobby as well. And we are very pleased to continue to make the lace and keep up the tradition.
Why should this particular item be in the exhibition, telling the story, as all of the objects do, of the histories of Northamptonshire?
Because it was a major contributor to the rural economy in Northamptonshire. The lace makers are represented in the town hall in Northampton, there is a room there that has a portrait of a shoemaker at one end and a lace maker at the other, showing that both industries were equally important to the economy of Northamptonshire.
So it's fascinating that there was a Northamptonshire name, we've lost the Northamptonshire name, and yet lace making in Northamptonshire continues with individuals such as yourself from then lace makers and others beyond. It's a fascinating piece of work, a fascinating story, if you like, of the individual who made it for a commission, for an amount of money. And it's fascinating that it should exist here in the 21st century. Athene, Barbara, thank you so much indeed for coming in. Send all our best to Nen Lace Makers. Thank you for telling me all about the Paisley Pear today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to this Histories of Northamptonshire podcast. If you would like to find out more about the objects or listen to other episodes in the series, go to www.northamptonmuseums.com. Alternatively, you can visit the Northampton Museum and Art Gallery, where you can see the A History of Northamptonshire in 100 Objects exhibition for yourself. The Histories of Northamptonshire project is funded by Arts Council England as part of the National Portfolio Programme.